Early Overwatch revolved around slower heroes and clearly defined offense-defense roles. Modern Overwatch is faster, more mobile, and far less static. It feels like a different game, because in many ways, it is. That shift didn't come from heroes or maps alone. They evolved together and reshaped the way the game plays. When Blizzard first made Overwatch, they didn't have years of genre experience or iteration to rely on. They were operating somewhat blind as to which aspects of Overwatch would work, which aspects would be fun long-term, and which might be problematic. As the game evolved, both strengths and weaknesses became much more apparent. It's important to note that there is strong synergy between map design and hero design, especially in a game like Overwatch. Map design influences hero design strongly, as is the opposite. To understand the state of Overwatch maps today, we need to understand what problems the original maps needed to solve. To build a clearer picture of early Overwatch, movement and the game overall was much slower. There were many low mobility heroes like Cassidy, Ana and Zen, Roadhog and Zarya, who each dominated the roster. Heroes with strong mobility were usually limited to one axis of movement, either vertical or horizontal. This isn't to say heroes like Winston or Genji were not mobile in the horizontal axis, but their movement is slower or reduced when compared to newer arrivals in the game. A hero like Tracer could blink around quickly and traverse large areas of the map, but would struggle to access high grounds on maps like Numbani or Gibraltar. Whereas heroes like Pharah and Junkrat were designed around being faster vertically, but somewhat slower horizontally, with strongly telegraphed movement. So many post-launch Overwatch heroes have both strong vertical and horizontal movement. The limited mobility of launch 2016 Overwatch heroes fed heavily into map design. Claiming high ground as a Cassidy or Roadhog often meant committing to a much longer rotation compared to today. Many later heroes introduced combined vertical and horizontal mobility that makes older heroes look almost stationary by comparison. A lot of Overwatch 1 heroes have also received added mobility, sometimes in small but meaningful ways. Junkrat gained 2 mines, Moira's Wraith form was improved greatly, and in Zarya's case, a perk to allow an increase in jump height. Rocket jumping became a core mechanic for heroes like Zarya, and even Soldier, to improve vertical access. The addition of characters like Lifeweaver and the new Jetpack Cat, which can provide verticality to otherwise vertically limited heroes. Contrasting older hero designs with later hero designs like Wrecking Ball, Jetpack Cat, and even Moira after various changes, the differences in designs are readily apparent. Due to the nature of older hero design, many engagement angles were naturally limited, either because heroes simply couldn't reach certain areas, or because the time invested made those positions impractical. These decisions shaped early Overwatch's tone, and still influences how many players interpret the game today. Overall, this shaped Overwatch as a slower game. If you commit in an engagement, it was hard to uncommit. The slow nature ensured Lucio was hard meta, for good reason. There was a degree of discipline the average player maintained when holding a position, since losing high ground angle as a slow hero would require a large rerouting time and made them vulnerable. A forgotten skill in early Overwatch was knowing where to set up at the start of a defense. This was caused by the design of certain maps. Maps like Hollywood, Numbani, and Route 66 all had areas that are today considered wasted space, usually positions closer to the enemy spawn. Trying to hold these areas today, unless you are fully committed to a spawn camp, would generally be seen as questionable at best. Knowing the correct position was actually a core skill that often differentiated lower and higher ranks. But as the game became better solved, this rule is ingrained in even the newest players' heads very quickly. Numbani in particular had a recent rework which aimed to trim down this wasted space and reduce the time taken to take a position. Many of Dorado's vertical angles were removed to streamline the map. Paths were added on Gibraltar 3rd point and Dorado 2nd point to allow slower heroes to reach high ground far more effectively. Early Overwatch also reflected this rigidity in how roles and modes were designed. The damage role itself was split into offense and defense heroes, which shows how the developers originally thought about gameplay in more binary terms. Hybrid, payload, and assault modes have a more rigid attack versus defense structure, encouraging set positions and predictable engagements. Control, which arrived later in the development pipeline, started to blur these lines with a dynamic system of attacking and defending, depending on the structure of the map and if you take the point. Modern Overwatch leans much further in that direction. Modes added like Push, Flashpoint, and Clash favor dynamic attack to defense gameplay rather than rigid phases, with each positioning becoming more reactive instead of predefined. The removal of Assault, largely due to strong negative player sentiment, reflects this broader philosophical shift away from strict structure towards more fluid gameplay as Overwatch has evolved. Now, the only real markers of more rigid attack-defense design are hybrid and escort modes, many of which are fan favourites, though in higher ranks the preference often seems to lean more towards the more dynamic modes. One major dynamic that the original Overwatch maps had, which ties directly into the core philosophy employed, is how Team 4 approached chokes. Chokes are areas of the map, often fairly narrow, that attackers must pass through in order to reach an objective. Defenders will hold a choke to reduce the space available to the attacking side, containing them and ideally defeating them before they can properly push through. Many older maps were extremely choke heavy, and several have been reworked over the years to reduce or soften these elements. Aaron Keller himself details why and how they changed map design due to community feedback.
When we're looking at a map after it's gone live, the data will be different than the community's perception of a particular area in a map. A very specific example, the first point Nikenwald was actually very consistent with the percentage of time that the attackers would take it. But at the same time, the community felt that the point was too difficult to get through. The data pointed to it working right, but I don't think it felt right for players. In those instances, whenever we can, we'll go in, change the map, or we'll go in and change the hero in order to align the perception of something with the reality.
The implementation of 5v5 and the removal of a tank feeds directly into this shift. Tanks working together could lock down chokes more easily by rotating defensive cooldowns and maintaining space. But without that layered defense, choke holds become naturally a lot weaker. The philosophy of chokes heavily contributed to early Overwatch gameplay. The de-emphasizing of chokes factors heavily in the difference of game feel in Overwatch 2. Some love the change, others hate it. I'd even wager it's a strong factor in why so many people want 6v6 back, because that was the style of gameplay they preferred. In Overwatch 2 and the newly renamed Overwatch of 2026, fights are split around the map more than ever before. Supports have to deal more damage than before, instead of heal-botting a tank the entire game. DPS take more duels between themselves, as the removal of the second tank decreases the chance a tank will be farting in their face. There are smaller design changes in Overwatch 2 map philosophy that, while subtle, actually causes a large difference in how the game feels than you might expect. Areas of the map that you should be able to position on have weird interactions that I don't believe would have occurred if they were designed half a decade prior. For instance, maps like Samoa and Karlcasey have spots like they should be standable, but instead you slide off them like they're made of butter, likely due to the reduction of smaller vertical spaces and awkward geometry that they've implemented on these areas. If these were designed in 2017, you'd be able to stand on them. Over time, as new maps were added, long sightlines were pushed more and more, with maps like Havana, Junkertown, and Circuit Real pushing that idea heavily. Meanwhile, reworked maps like Dorado and Gibraltar have gradually reduced their vertical emphasis over time. All of this has contributed to a certain homogenization of the game. Maps feel more horizontal and less vertical than before. These changes have culminated in an Overwatch that feels very familiar, but not the same. The tight, choke-heavy defensive gameplay of early Overwatch has given way to something faster and scrappier. Overall, I believe the best compromise is leaning heavier into the themes of older Overwatch, while maintaining some of the current elements that makes modern Overwatch great. The addition of more hybrid and payload map additions would be a good first start. More players tend to like this mode anyway, and the focus on the newer modes has reduced the release schedule of these greatly. The over-focus on long sightlines should be reduced for newer maps. There are many maps like Havana, Circuit Real, Rialto at this point. These maps play very similar and often lead to pocket hitscan battles and hunt down the widow gameplay. I think a refocus to map designs like Watchpoint Gibraltar before this newest rework would decrease the homogenized feel that the newer and reworked maps are bringing. And I want to be clear, I still play this game a lot. I enjoy it a great deal. I played it during the phase that everyone was saying it was dead. I play it now while it's super popular. It's just that the way the game is played has evolved so much over the past decade, in ways that many would argue are for the better, especially for the wider player base. This game has changed so much that whilst Overwatch of 2026 is similar to the game of Overwatch of 2016, it's not the same game anymore. If you find yourself wondering why the game feels different, then I hope this video helps you understand. I still enjoy it, and I'll be making many more videos to come. If you enjoyed this video, please consider checking out my comparison of how the lighting has evolved between Overwatch 2015 beta and Overwatch 2.